You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hello! All right, I want to share a little bit of a journey from my travels recently. So for those of you who don't know, I spent the past few months on a cruise going everywhere from Abu Dhabi to Australia. And it was actually supposed to be even further than that. But with the war in Israel and Gaza, things got changed around a little bit. So we ended up starting in Abu Dhabi instead of our original plan. But we still saw so many incredible places through Southeast Asia, through Australia. We're back now in the States, which feels so good. But I did learn something at one of our excursions on land that has really stuck with me that I want to share with you as well around creativity, giving yourself some permission to be a beginner again, and choosing what you want to become an expert at because it's accessible to all of us. So here is the story of how this came about. On one of the days out in New Zealand, we went to this warehouse studio where they make all of the props for any kind of movie you can imagine. So Lord of the Rings, all the way to funny comedies, to a lot of sci-fi movies. They make the swords, the costumes, the props, all the things you never even really think of are needed in movies. And we got to interact with some of the artists who were there working with paints and little figurines and foil of all things to craft these amazing shapes and miniatures that they'd blow up for a movie and things like that. And one of them said that he's so disheartened with the state of things with kids these days because when they come in, he finds that they often have spent so many hours playing a video game or watching TV, but those 200 hours could be used to become an expert in an art form. And that can lead to this whole amazing career in movies, let alone a passion that inspires these kids versus kind of wasting away that time. And I got to thinking that that's probably true for kids, but how often is that true for adults as well? I know I've definitely spent my share of time having movie marathons or watching and rewatching seasons of my favorite TV shows. And while I don't think that's bad in and of itself, there's certainly time to decompress and to kind of zone out and just watch a show at the end of the day. I did think about the hours I spend on social media scrolling mindlessly that take up a half hour easily that I could spend reading a book or learning something new, like how to paint or to draw or to learn a language or just something that is new and exciting to me. So I wanted to pass this on to you as well in case you've been feeling the same grip of technology and social media, that I love how he mentioned it. You can become an expert in 200 hours. There's nothing different between him and all the other artists that were there. It's just that when they were kids or young adults, they got curious about picking apart things in the garage and tinkering with them. Or this one guy, he only makes figurines out of foil. That's all he uses. And he just realized that if you compress foil into certain shapes and use a spoon or a fork to manipulate it and punch out even bigger dents, you can make shapes like skulls out of it, or hearts, or faces. And he had a dinosaur that he had made out of it. And those then become the cast that they use to shape clay around and create all these figurines and stuff like that. So hard to describe verbally, but my point is he only used foil to do that. And now he's the world's expert in using foil as a cheap material, a recyclable material to make all these other shapes. Now imagine if he had just watched TV or scrolled social media, he never would have discovered that interest. So that was one of the things that it reminded me of is, man, there's such an opportunity and there's so much to learn in this world or just to explore that, like, what else could I, maybe you, be doing with our time to learn something new? And you never know where that's going to lead, whether it's to a business or a nonprofit or an art form that you love or just something that you deeply, deeply enjoy in your life. Number two, that everyone starts somewhere. So if you're a beginner in something and you feel like you're just not good at this one thing in your life, remember that the way he described it is it's going to take 200 hours to become an expert. Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers refers to 10,000 hours to become truly like a world's expert in something. But you can become pretty dang good at something with 200 hours of focused effort. Imagine if you spent 200 hours learning how to cook or to paint or to, I don't know, fix a computer, learn a language. 200 hours learning something is quite a substantial amount of time. So if you are trying something new, I applaud that in you. And if you're like, why aren't I good at this thing, or other people seem to be better, have you spent 200 hours in it yet? And if you've spent 200, have you spent 500? Because those other people probably have. Anyone who's better than you, seemingly, has probably just spent a little bit more time. So keep going. That was the other thing that I really took away from it. And then three, the other piece that was encouraging to me is just that we all have the ability to become an expert in anything. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like we have already kind of selected the things that we're good at or not. But what I learned from this conversation is that these artists truly believed that the playing field is ripe for anyone. So if you want to be an expert in making movie props like them, or in cooking, or in interior design, or style, or organization, like the internet, we're in this amazing time when you can learn anything and the stuff is out there. There's courses on anything these days. So if you want to become an expert in any of these things, just call your shot. Choose the thing that you want to become an expert at and then chip away those 200 hours. At that point, you can evaluate, is this something that I really feel like I want to keep driving towards or not? But I guarantee you that you're probably going to find yourself, the better you get at something, getting even newer ideas with it and ways that it can work in your life, or it can become something that just you don't even know what it's going to turn into, right? But you kind of know what social media is going to lead to, what TV is going to lead to, or a video game. And so for me, I was really inspired to spend more time choosing the things that I want to learn about and become good at. I was encouraged to believe that I really can if I just put in the time that other people have put in to get there, those 200 hours. And I was encouraged that anything that I'm still kind of new at or stumbling with, it's probably just a time issue, and I just need a little bit more time. It doesn't mean that I'm bad at something or destined to fail. It just means I need a little more time. And maybe that's true for you as well. So I hope there's something in here that sparks your interest. If there's anything I can suggest from it, or at least what I'm doing with this information, is I'm making a list of the things that I want to learn. I don't know if you guys know who Jesse Itzler is, but he is this motivational speaker and author. He is the husband of Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx, billion-dollar brand. And he said that when he turned 50, he wrote down a list of 50 things that he wanted to learn. And this could range from becoming an expert at it to simply taking a class on it and learning how to do it, like surfing, right? Whereas maybe he wanted to become an expert at karate. So I love that idea and that learner spirit around maybe you even just today spend 5 minutes jotting down a list of things you can learn. And anytime that you have some time in your day, or you feel bored, or you feel kind of sucked into the TV or computer, you instead go and see what you can learn on one of these topics, what class you can sign up for. The reason I share this is just, I think one of the ways that I always find my way back to feeling inspired and excited about life is learning something new and going somewhere different. And so for me, I love to have these tools at my disposal to know where to turn when I am feeling unmotivated, uninspired, and like I don't know what the heck is going on with my life. They're kind of like things you want to do in the moment when you're feeling good, and then you can have them as a resource when you're just needing a little juice, but you're definitely not in the headspace to go create it then. So I hope this gives you some ideas and just a little thought to have in the back of your head that it takes 200 hours to become an expert. So keep going and you can become an expert in anything you choose. You just got to choose what it is and start to chip away at those hours. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a free copywriter training full of 5 steps to build a profitable copywriting business as your own boss, no matter how much experience you're starting with. Copywriting is what took me from a 9-to-5 to freedom as my own boss, to travel, choose my schedule, replace my corporate income, and have time to work on creative projects like this podcast. And I'd love to give other women the same opportunity. Another, of course, is my book, Your Bright Life. You can find it on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate the audiobook, so it's kind of like a podcast in book form. All of these things are in the podcast show notes. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate you and your review so much, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.